People look at plants and look at their garden and think, just plants. As I said earlier, they're some of the most powerful things on the planet. And obviously there's lots of illegal ones now. We're not going into that today. There are ones. In fact, on our original brew, one of the ones which was, it was on the legal side in the UK, but Amazon and their algorithms, because at the time when we were trying to get listed with Amazon, they were like, nah, and that's Syrian rue.
Before we get started, just a really quick question. Have you checked out the awesome free stuff available at lownodrinkermagazine.com/free gifts? Well, you should. Hi, Low No Nation, and welcome to this week's conversation on the Low No Drinker podcast, bringing you closer to the people, places, and brands leading the low, no, and light alcohol revolution. Today, I am talking to Chris, and I should have asked you this beforehand. Is it Kazakeos?
Kazakeos, yes. Good.
Yes?
Yes.
Fantastic.
We can go with that.
Tell me how I should say it properly.
Kazakeos. There you go.
Okay. That's close.
Yeah.
Chris is the founder of On Beer, and as you can hear, he is good people, always with a smile on his face, even through the toughest of times. Today, I'd love to have a chat about the journey that On Beer has been on. I first found out about the brand about a year or so ago. Chris and I first spoke, and they've been through quite a few changes in that time. Chris describes his beer as not just a drink, but it's a mission. And I want to find out more about that mission, what drives it, and how Chris sees On Beer as fitting into his passion for holistic well-being. It's also not been easy. There have been challenges along the way, as many founders have faced, myself included. So I'd love to dive into some of that as well. So Chris, thank you very much for joining me. How are you doing today, my lovely?
Thank you. Thank you for the invite. No, it's a pleasure. Really, really chuffed to be chatting with you today. So,
thank you. Well, it's good to have you here. Chris is wearing a great T-shirt. He's got a Choose Life T-shirt on. It's giving me positive vibes. I'm loving it. So let's talk about life then. I always like to start by asking my guests to take us on a bit of a journey through what led them to where they are now, because launching an AF brand is not something that everybody can do. Nor should they. So
I certainly don't recommend it for everyone.
No, you need to be made of tough stuff.
I'll share more.
Fantastic. Well, start where you want to start, Chris. What's the journey that led you to be speaking with me today? How did that all come about for you?
Wow, how far do I go back? Well, I suppose it all comes back to health and well-being. So from the age of 15, inspiration, Arnold Schwarzenegger all over the TV, everywhere, back in the 80s. And obviously, as a young lad sort of growing up, you sort of look at this guy who's on the TV screens, sort of a gladiator as such. So I started going to the gym at the age of 15 and got absolutely addicted to it. I would go 7 days a week, sometimes I only missed, for 10 years, I only missed 3 or 4 5 days a year.
Wow.
Training. So it was a real big passion thing for me. And I presume it's just the goodness that it just evokes inside you, the endorphins, the serotonin, everything. It just gets your body, you feel good about life. So I suppose that was my sort of journey to sort of in well-being and realising how important it was in my life. So, and then I went away studying and college and at uni and got into that. And like a big group of friends got into that drink culture because it's a rite of passage, yeah? I mean, that's how it was back in the day. And I sort of was always at a disconnect with alcohol. It's sort of, my well-being was so important to me and all my training, but yet I'd go out X amount of nights per week, get absolutely trolleyed with my friends, feel like crap, be in the gym, trying to build myself and feeling good again. And so did that for many years. But then luckily, when I finished, well, not luckily or unluckily, when I finished uni, I actually studied construction management, and it was, show my age now, cast your mind back to the early 90s, there was a big recession in construction. So I actually never went into it, sort of applied for numerous jobs, never went into it. And the gym I was training at the time, they offered for me to become a fitness instructor there. So I went and did a YMCA fitness instructors course and did that for a few years. Really, really, really enjoyed it. and obviously training was still a big part of my own personal life. So did that for a few years, but then obviously branched out into industry, into sales, and marketing, and ended up sort of navigating various areas of marketing. Worked for one of the ones you'll know is a big, well-known one called Saatchi and Saatchi. So I worked for those guys and a sort of European stroke global capacity in a specific area of retail. And yeah, it was like being schooled. It's like getting paid and being schooled. It was like amazing, really amazing time. So it's sort of set up for a lot of the things of actually where we've got to today, and obviously the sort of premise of launching and creating On Beer.
Wow, that is quite a journey. And I
Yeah.
suppose it's quite interesting you talk about the time that you went to the gym for so many years and probably only missed about 5 days in 10 years. And the reason why that rings with me is because it just shows the tenacity and the dedication that you must have within you to make such commitments to the things that you hold important and that you see value in. And that is, I'm sure, what's led to you being able to continue to keep going through tough times of launching, through not knowing which way things are going to be going.
Yeah, life's. I'm sure most listeners are aware. Life's not easy. It's a challenge. You sort of get knocked down all the time. It's just about keeping getting up again, and that's what it is. You know, it is challenging, and I suppose our sort of how I actually went into. So obviously, I'm one of the co-founders of OnBeer with my business partner James Jacoby, and our sort of journey started. Well, actually, it was during this sort of COVID. That seems like yonks ago. That
Yes.
COVID thing. Dare I mention it? That time when I was watching a program and it was all on telly about. It was on Channel 4. It was about the launch of a product that was gave you the effect of alcohol without the alcohol and didn't damage your health. And I was like, wow, this sounds phenomenal. It was about to launch. It was in sort of pre-launch mode, and I reached out. I reached out to the owners and then got chatting with them, and actually went in and became part of the business. And James was one of the co-founders of that business, which is a brand that obviously you're well aware of, Sentia Spirits.
Yeah.
So and was working with the amazing Professor David Nutt, and just from spending time here, as soon as I sort of got in there, and it was like that light switch moment where I just stopped drinking alcohol straight away. Once I actually learned the full impact of alcohol and what it does to your body, I was literally gone. I'm not touching that again. Just switched, and so that was 3.5, 4 years ago, and not drunk since, and all for the better, as I'm sure you're heard by from lots of people you know in this sort of sector. Who I suppose some still drink, but others who don't. And yes, I'm quite passionate about not drinking. But yeah, I don't know how controversial you want me to go about alcohol, because I've got deep-seated views about it now from the amount of sort of knowledge that I learned from Professor Nutt, which is just phenomenal. He's really a leading light in that area.
Yeah, I mean, I think most people have heard of Professor Nutt in some way, shape, or form, or at least of Sentia and the GABA spirits. And I'm hoping to one day get him on the podcast to have a chat with me. In terms of their approach to alcohol, I think is really fascinating, because I speak to a lot of different founders, obviously, on this show, and really they run the gamut, because there are founders that I speak to who are very much alcohol free and very anti-alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are other founders who I speak to who still drink on a regular basis, but are making alcohol free drinks. So what I like about that is that it's representative of the consumer that is out there drinking these drinks, because not all of the people that are picking up alcohol-free drinks are alcohol-free people, right? They are people who are looking to be alcohol-free for a time, for a drink, for an occasion. And I think it's important that we represent all sides of that,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it's important that we have everybody from the 100% alcohol-free to the still sober curious
Mm-hmm.
to the I'll just have what I fancy when I fancy it. It's Low No Drinker isn't a sobriety platform. We're not a recovery platform. I'm not qualified to be either of those types of people, so I don't
Actually,
profess to
neither
be.
am I.
But I think that we are now in a world where a lot of people have a lot of opinions about alcohol and about alcohol-free drinks. But what I like is that it means we're having the conversation, because I think you and I are probably around a similar sort of age range. When you're talking about the 90s, and
Well,
you're.
much younger than me, Denise.
Oh no, darling, I just look it. But thank you, I'll take that. But when I was working in hospitality, these conversations weren't being had.
Yeah,
There weren't menus with dedicated alcohol-free sections, and now that's happening. They're not
yeah.
doing it very well, but they're starting.
You
Um,
must remember then how bad Caliber was.
do you know what I remember? I do and I don't. I remember just not having any consideration for it. I knew it existed,
Yeah,
and I remember people coming into my venues back in the day. I can't remember which brand it was now, but he had an alcohol-free drink, and I couldn't have been more dismissive, and my bar manager couldn't have been more dismissive. And I think back now, and you think that's just not cool. But it was just the way that it was. There's no money in it, there's no interest in it, no one's asking for it. Why should I stock it? Whereas
yeah,
actually, now there is interest in it, but more importantly, if we don't stock it, then nobody is going to ask for it.
yeah, yeah.
So, you
Times
know,
have changed massively, and I'd say all for the good as well. So it's exciting. It's exciting times, and I think really it's still in its infancy, massively in its infancy. So it's an exciting area and category that's sort of blossoming from so many different sides, which makes it exciting.
absolutely. So let's stick with the beer. I want to know a little bit more about the journey of On Beer. So you and James, you met, you
So we
got.
met. So we met. We were obviously. So I was dealing a lot with this sort of trade and with customers, and getting a lot of sort of feedback. It was, oh wow, this is amazing. Obviously in a spirit form. When are you going to bring this out in beer? And there wasn't a sort of from the CEO there wasn't that sort of tendency to sort of want to go down that path. So I'm so trying to say that in a diplomatic way. So James and I both exited after chatting and decided to exit and set up On Beer, and to then develop that similar plant science and integrate it into a new product, which is in beer.
So what is On Beer then, and what makes it unique?
So it's obviously zero alcohol, and I don't want to get into that whole debate on whether it's 0 point this, 0 point that, 0 point that. It's classed as zero alcohol,
Okay.
but packed full of powerful plants that give you an uplifting, elevating effect. And obviously, there's no alcohol, so there's no downsides.
So, I mean, it's a fascinating area, I think, and I found that whenever I share episodes or articles or content about this more sort of functional way of drinking, people are really, really interested in it at the moment. And I think it's really, to use your word you used earlier on, blossoming
Yeah,
in the zeitgeist for consumers to go, I'm not drinking alcohol, or I'm drinking less alcohol, and but I want something that gives me something more than just plain liquid.
yeah.
So, can you tell me, without giving away any proprietary secrets, what are the kind of ingredients that are in On Beer, and what are they doing for people?
So they're things that go back thousands. As humans, we've been using these for thousands of years. So they've come from Chinese medicine and Ayurvedic sort of practices. So humans have been using these and discovering the power of plants a thousand years. That they are still to this day some of the most powerful things on this planet. Plants. So, and they have, and as humans, we've synergistically grown up with them and symbiotically grown up with them through millennia. So our bodies are accustomed to them and use them and zap them up and love them. And they've been used for sort of wellness, for elevating the way you feel, to combat disease and lots of different areas. So it was quite a challenge. So you imagine there's thousands and thousands of plants. So James, I'll tell you the bit that I know. James is obviously our sort of drink chef, so he's the master on that, and he's been working with powerful plants for about 20 years or more. So he's the sort of more of the guru on that side. So he must have worked with like quite a few hundred different plants and and recipes and iterations and how to actually integrate them. Because we found out I'll get onto that. We found out the hard way trying to mess with beer, which has been pretty static for thousands of years. It's quite challenging. So obviously what we're trying to do is initially on our initial brew we had sort of 9 powerful botanicals, integrating them into a non-alcoholic beer as such, that would give you that elevated nice effect that people like, stimulate those neurotransmitters, your GABA, your serotonin, dopamine areas, give you the nice feelings that we get from having a few drinks, take the weight off your shoulders, make you feel nice. And then obviously alcohol then starts overwhelming lots of your other systems and functionalities in your body, which, because ours doesn't have any alcohol in it, we don't get any of that element. It just makes you feel good. None of the rubbish or crap that comes with alcohol.
And sort of that feel good feeling, is how long does that last, or is it quite intense, or is it just like a mellow buzz? What's that like?
So obviously we get feedback all the time from our customers, and they're our most important asset. We listen to our customers all the time. And it's like anything, it's subjective. So it depends on the setting, what you've eaten, how much you've drunk previously. So we found that before at Sentia. It's like, if you're a big drinker and you've overstretched, let's call it, your GABA system with alcohol, then trying to stimulate it using sort of these powerful plants is a lot more difficult and more testing than it is for someone who hasn't experienced that from alcohol. So I remember being at an event a few years ago, and it was a Muslim lady who'd never drunk alcohol, and we gave her something to drink, and so she'd never experienced that buzz from alcohol. But so obviously we gave her some of the spirit, and she came back and gave me a big hug 15 minutes later. Big smile on her face, absolutely buzzing, goes, "Oh my God, I've never felt like elevated like that before." So it works with different people and to different levels. So we do get asked this all lot, and people think, right, am I going to get pissed? And we're like, well, no, that's a different thing. That's alcohol getting you discombobulated, wobbly, all your senses start going, everything starts numbing up. It's that nice bit when you sit back and have 1 to 2 drinks and you feel okay and you haven't got discombobulated. That's the nice effect. And that's what we're delivering.
And is it with these drinks, can somebody sit there and drink this throughout the evening? Is there, because you've got powerful plants in there, as you mentioned, is there sort of like an RDA around
there is. So I'd say really 2 to 3 bottles of an evening would do it. And obviously in the thing of science and research, myself and James, we've overcooked it on it, and it's really weird. It happens differently, and obviously you think I've not drunk for nearly 4 years, so it has a different impact. So I get a fizzing on my chest, and like that nice fizzing, and you feel nice and like buzzing. And I remember like we've overcooked it like 10, just in the name of research, done 10, drunk maybe 10 drinks over a long period, like of an afternoon through to an evening, and was feeling pretty wired, like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, like waking up, like. So again, people look at plants and look at their garden and think, just plants. As I said earlier, they're some of the most powerful things on the planet. And obviously there's lots of illegal ones now. We're not going into that today. There are ones. Some of the ones that we had, in fact, on our original brew, one of the ones which was, it was on the legal side in the UK, but Amazon and their algorithms, because at the time when we were trying to get listed with Amazon, they were like, nah, and that's Syrian rue. So so anyway, in our latest, so we decided to take Syrian rue out of the current version that we've just relaunched. so that it doesn't cause that issue with Amazon when we get onto Amazon.
Okay, fantastic. So for those who are watching on video, I've got with me here, oh gosh, don't knock
Oh
things
yes,
over, a bottle of your new and a bottle of your
you've got
previous.
the
So if I can get
original
these up.
both. Look at
So this
this.
was the original that I met a year ago. And
Yes,
then now this is On Beer 2.0.
2.0
So
exactly.
what's
Yes.
the big differences between these two liquids then?
Well, one of them doesn't foam anymore. Let's put it bluntly.
Okay, you can open it safely.
Yeah. So this is so obviously as you trade, it hasn't been easy. I'm quite open about how stuff's been. So, like business, you fall over, you get yourself up again, you get knocked down, you get yourself up again. So, and it's all part of the product development. So we're doing something quite unique. So I never expected it was going to be a bed of roses. Far from it. So all and I suppose both of us, me and James, are quite ballsy. So we went for it. Right, this is fine. Boom, smashed it out, and then we discovered in the early part of this year, obviously once we had shitloads of product, that there was a problem with it where unless it was chilled down to like 2 degrees, which sort of brought down sort of all of the powerful botanicals in it down to a sort of stable level, on opening you got a foaming. So quite painful for obviously a business,
Yeah.
scaling business, startup. So we then had to work with very closely with a brewing lab, and and we at the time we didn't know whether we'd be able to overcome it. The thing for us with On Beer, we didn't want to just play with it. We wanted to do it properly. So we're not like messing about. For us, it's all about the effect. So we didn't want to just put in a small little bit and a bit of extract, and we do it, and we're going to do it properly because that's what people are going to judge us on is the effect. So we go full blazing for us. So in one of our bottles, there's 11 grams of powerful botanical matter in there. So we didn't know when we were working with the lab whether we'd be able to overcome it. So it was quite a worry, really. It's a sort of as we sort of as a product that's quite unique and we're sort of developing it forward and on our journey, it's like how much of a hurdle is this going to be? So in the end, it took about 6 months, like with various iterations of changes of the recipe and how it was all put together. And luckily, why I'm sitting here today is we managed to crack it. So when our latest version 2.0 then launched into we brewed it, and now it's obviously in our warehouse as of about 3 or 4 weeks ago.
So did you just have to stop trading for some time whilst
Sort
you?
of, yeah. We sort of, and we were it was sort of trickling along, and
Yeah.
we were trying to inform our customers, and it was a difficult time. We're trying to inform them that you can't. The way to overcome it, like foaming, is to chill it down for a couple of days, down to 2 degrees, then open it, and it should be quite stable then. And obviously, unfortunately, not everyone has their fridges set to the right temperature. We found out, so yeah, it
Yeah,
was.
no, because I'm just thinking about that, and me going and opening this now because my fridge is at 4 degrees or 5 degrees or something. So I might stick it in the freezer for half an hour first because I
Yeah,
don't want to
yeah.
waste it.
You might want to do that.
So talk to me about the flavor profile then, because we've talked about all these ingredients in there that they do these magical things, but obviously you're delivering it in a way that people can enjoy it as well. So does it taste particularly planty?
It does. So it's quite distinctive. You can't hide it. You think the standard beer product's got 3 or 4 ingredients in it, and we've got them plus another 8 on top of that. So we can't disguise it, but we want it. So that's part of the challenge. So we want it to taste like a beer because obviously that's what people are wanting to taste and what they like. But obviously, effect is what we need to deliver. So we can't, if we stripped out a lot of that, then you wouldn't get the effect. So it's sort of a swings and roundabouts sort of thing, really. So yeah, it's got a distinctive flavour, but it's quite, with the latest version, it's quite hoppy, and we brought the hop flavour sort of forward a lot more. And the latest brew we're working on at the moment is in fact it's in brew at the moment. It's going to be slightly even more. So like any product, it's continual improvement, continual development. So we're going to bring the top flavor forward even more. So to sort of balance it out, but because we use the full plants in the brew process, it adds to a lot of the complex flavor notes in there, and it adds to the flavor. So you tell me. Hopefully, you've tried it. I don't know what you think. Obviously, lots of very good.
Here we go. So I've got some here, and actually, that's one of the flavors that I was going to mention, because I thought it was
I'm
quite
going to
hoppy.
join you and have one as well.
Please do, please do. I found it to be quite hoppy as well, and I wasn't necessarily expecting that. I didn't know what I was expecting.
Yeah.
But hops also are a very powerful plant, aren't they? Because I think
No,
hops are
really
quite underrated.
massively, massively. They're super, super, super good for you. So anyway, cheers.
Cheers, chin chin.
This is the right type of podcast when we're drinking beer.
It is. And, you know, my job is
One of
tough,
the
but
benefits of owning a beer company, you can sit and drink beer during the day.
exactly all day long. I mean, I've done many a tasting in my career, and normally I wouldn't dream of starting one at 11 o'clock in the morning, because it meant I wouldn't be able to make it through the shift for the rest of the day. Now we're all good.
It's all good. So we like that. Yeah. Yeah. So so flavour wise, it's quite deep flavours. It's quite and it's got a bit of bite about it. So it feels like a beer. It feels like an IPA based beer, and it's and it's slightly different to the others, because you find look. I'm trying not to be controversial. I said I wouldn't be. But
Go for it.
Well, like your comment from earlier, in the sector, and obviously it's a bandwagon that lots of people have jumped on, including the big brands, and there's a reason for that, which we might touch on and discuss. But I don't know. You tell me. Is that from a lot of the non-alc beers you've tried? Are there ones that you find that are really, really good, and are there ones that you find which are not really so good?
I mean, obviously, I think that, anybody who tries beverages in this space, no matter which category you're in, you're going to find some that are really lovely and surprise you, and you go, oh, that's actually quite nice. I've got favorites. I've got things that I really enjoy, and then there are going to be other times you taste stuff, you're like, what the hell is that? Why is it in my glass?
Yeah.
And that is a very real challenge. But what I want people to recognise is that it's probably a real challenge for the whole sector.
Yeah, and the effect, obviously for us, the effect is paramount. That's our number one. But obviously, aligned to that is taste, because you need both. People need to like it. They're not just after the effect; they're after both the effect and the taste. So it needs to taste well, and that's to do with the mouthfeel, the depth. Because as soon as you strip alcohol out of a lot of the adult drinks, they become very, very light, and don't have the mouthfeel of the alcohol versions. And that's where a lot of the disappointment lies for consumers, I would say, in that. And hopefully with ours, because it's packed full of all of those powerful plants, it adds to that whole mouthfeel, the thickness element of the liquid, and it improves that as well.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's definitely got a finish and a last to it, which is one of the things that I think a lot of people are looking for when they look for non-alc drinks. Is that something that doesn't just you stop and then fall off a cliff? You want something that continues on in that flavour. I think absolutely you're right. It's because everything is still in its infancy with low and no and light drinks, whatever path somebody goes down. I think we are in a stage at the moment where there is so much choice out there, which first and foremost is fantastic, that people should have choice and that they can have different things. And no matter what you used to or still like drinking in the alcohol side, you can probably find an alcohol-free equivalent or adjacent or a complement to it in some way. Are they all good? No, of course not. But I think that time will tell, because I think that people will just stop buying things that taste shit, quite frankly, and then only those that can really deliver what consumers are looking for are going to stand the test of time. And that's why it's important that brands like you've done iterate and pivot and take feedback on from consumers. But it's also on the consumer as well to communicate that. We've got to let brands and founders and professionals know what they're doing well, because everyone needs a pat on the back sometimes,
Yeah.
but where they can improve. Because if we don't tell them what we want, then they can't give it to us.
Yeah, exactly. And every day's a school day. I'm a great believer in that. The day you stop thinking, or the day you think that you know everything, is it's a bad day. So for us, we learn stuff every single day, and I've got that mindset myself. Exciting. Every day should be exciting to learn new things and learn customer feedback and learn what's new and what the trends are and what people are looking for. So we're sort of switched on to that, and like a lot of brands are, and rightly so. It's an important thing, and famous saying, that I learned in my Saatchi days, and I say to I used to say to lots of business, who owns this business, and they say, well, there's this shareholder that. It's like, nah, who own you? It's your customers who own your business, and don't ever forget that, because without your customers, there is no business, and that's a lesson that I think most brands need to always remember that.
Absolutely. I think that brings me on to something else that I wanted to ask you about, which is, the way you communicate with your customers and the brand that you're building around On Beer, because I've seen quite a change in the way you're presenting yourself from when I first came across you. If you don't mind me saying, that when I first saw On Beer, your socials and everything was very stylized. It was very trendy. Lots of beautiful people wearing beautiful clothes and looking young and quite
I wasn't in any of
homogenized.
those shots.
It wasn't you, darling.
No,
It
no.
wasn't. But now, when I look at your accounts and at your communications, it seems quite different. You seem to have, first of all, obviously something I like to see, you've diversified in terms of the skin tones that you can see in the people who are talking about your beer that you're sharing, which
Yep.
for me, obviously as a Black female, it's very important that we see
Yep.
diversity and let everybody know that they can drink in this space.
Yep.
But also the tonality of what you're putting out there. There seems to be a lot more humor in what you're doing now. Was that a conscious choice that you kind of went, we want to change our approach?
I'm a great believer. If it's not working, change it. And so our product is full of good stuff. Okay, it's actually, and you've got to be careful what you say, but everything in there is really good for you. Your body zaps it up. It likes all of those powerful botanicals. They're all good things that your body enjoys. And like all good stuff is expensive. So we get asked that question: why is your product expensive? Because it's full of good stuff and it's unique and it's bringing something to you which a lot of other products don't.
Mm-hmm.
So we thought, because it was expensive, we thought we needed to portray luxury and have that sort of positioning. But then we sort of soon realised that didn't connect with the customers that we had. So we pivot quite quickly and we realise, well, maybe that's not our brand positioning point. It's the best for us. Who is our target market? And we then, so as you've noticed, we have sort of rebranded. We've come a bit, will make us feel more accessible to a wider audience. What do you think? Do you think it's a good change?
I think it was quite possibly one of the best decisions that you've made, because you're right. I think the very stylized, the very luxurious, the very high end. Yes, of course, it serves a purpose. I don't think that it makes a product. It doesn't say that this is for everyone. It says this is for you if.
Yes.
And then you have to fill in those. You have to rise to those standards that the if implies.
Yeah.
Whereas what you've done now is you've brought humor into it. It's not quite so polished, and it just makes it far more relatable. And then that makes me go, oh yeah, okay, I that's for me. I can give that a try. And that's what you need, right? You want people that give it a try, because if no one's going to try it, then they're not going to come back to you.
It's the old adage in this category: liquid on lips. We want people to try it and hopefully have a great experience. And that's what we want. And then for them to come back, tell their friends and family about us, and build that community. So that's what it's important for us.
Excellent. So If people do want to try some, and I've got a couple more questions for you, but just as we're on that, people do want to try some, where's the best place for them to go and find you? We're talking about your socials as well. Where can they go and see and learn more about On Beer?
Yeah, get to our website. Again, as you know, we've changed that, we've updated it. It's something that is in continual improvement all the time. We never say it's finished. It's continual improvement. So yeah, Google On Beer, go to our website. So at the moment, yeah, we're just on a website, and predominantly our short term aim is to be a direct to consumer brand. But we're in talks with various hospitality people at the moment and some retailers. So, but we're sort of it's all part of the journey. So at the moment, it's direct to consumer, and luckily, I suppose for us on that is the world has sort of changed. Whereas consumers, we're quite comfortable now. Clicking, buy, click, arrives the next day, and thanks to Amazon and and the way people shop on websites, they're quite comfortable with that this day and age. So that's a good thing, because we could open up a can of worms about the whole getting listed in supermarkets and that whole journey. And I'm sure you spoke to lots of other brands in this category, and I've had meetings, industry meetings, where this topic comes up all the time. People trying to get on the shelf in Sainsbury's, Tesco's, Waitrose, Morrison's, blah blah blah, and the hoops you have to jump through to do that, is quite challenging, and obviously the margin you give away is huge as well. So it's a whole other topic.
Yeah. So that's not on the horizon for you. It's not a next on your to-do list.
It's not next on the to-do list, but it's certainly on the to-do list. Yeah, and it's something we're having conversations all the time on that front, and so yeah, for the time being, it's building a big enough community and because that's what all these retailers are going to want to see, and other platforms, they're going to want to see the size of your community, how many people are buying, what your sales numbers are, all those things, and then that gives them the confidence. But it's pointless us getting listed in 250 Waitrose stores and we don't have enough awareness about it, because all of a sudden it's just going to sit there, gather dust. It's going to cost us a fortune to have put it on there, and then it's going to get pulled, and that's going to be a disaster for the brand. So it's all part of the brand building journey.
So what are you working on at the moment in On Beer that's really exciting you? What's the most exciting thing that you guys are doing at the moment?
So at the moment, we've just got the one product, and we're just developing the next one or two.
Oh,
So, and that again, we want to involve our community. So on that, it's what are they looking for? So, we have one which we're very happy with, but we realise different people have different favourites in the beer world, whether that be a lager, whether that be a stout. So we're investigating that at the moment.
okay. Any time?
And then again, it's all to do with the science. So obviously, what we're doing is quite a difficult thing. So it's quite time consuming to actually make it work, and testing and testing and testing again, and getting the iterations right, the formula right, the recipe, and making sure everything works together in sync.
Yeah, I can imagine actually that your timelines are possibly quite a lot longer than your average non-alc beer or drink, because there's just so much more involved. You've got, like you said, there's 4 ingredients in beer, and then you've got like 8 to 12 in yours.
Exactly.
So there must be a lot more hoops to jump through, both tasting and red tape, I can
Yeah,
imagine.
yeah, there is. So it takes quite a while. And like I say, the original on beer it was 18 months in development, really. So from us thinking up the idea and getting it through to having a finished product. So it's quite time consuming.
Okay, all right. Well, in that case, I will keep my eye for the new developments, and hopefully you'll come back and tell us a bit more
I
about it.
will, yes.
Yes, but remember, guys, you heard it here first. There's more to come from On
There
Beer.
is more to come, yes.
Fantastic. Chris, I've loved speaking to you, and there's obviously a lot more that we could cover. But like I said, I'd love to get you back on again. But before I let you go this time, I have my final question, which I always ask everybody who comes on the show. And that is because I want to spread the love across all of Lono Nation. So we're recording at the end of 2024, the very end. So it's cold. It's very cold.
It
So
is.
I want you to cast your mind back to the summertime when it was nice and hot and
When
sunny.
was that?
It happened once.
Did it?
I think it was in the 90s.
Yeah.
And imagine it's a hot sunny day and you are off to a barbecue at a mate's house and you're bringing some drinks along with you. Now, obviously, first and foremost, it's several bottles of the amazing, amazing On Beer 2.0,
I thank you.
of course. But what else do you like to enjoy in the Lono space?
So I feel really bad now saying this, but should I or shouldn't I? So
You should.
I should feel really bad.
No, you
But
should say it.
I should say. So for me, it's Guinness Zero.
Okay.
It's phenomenal. It's so good. I love it. I really do. I think it's phenomenal. And yes, it's a big, massive conglomerate, Diageo, who own it, but they've done such a good job with it. Such a good job. And my friends who drink and they drink Guinness, and we can go out and I drink Guinness Zero, and they're like, "Let me try that." It's like there's no difference. It's that good. And so I know it's a big company, and maybe I should have said something else, but for me, I'm being totally honest. I think it's a phenomenal liquid, and it really is. And its popularity is just shown. I was reading in the press yesterday that there's a shortage of Guinness, and all of the bars in the UK and I think they're literally limited to stocks.
Yeah.
And apparently the younger generation are leading their love for Guinness. I think wasn't it? I think the Princess of Wales was seen and Prince William was seen drinking Guinness, and you had Kim Kardashian seen drinking Guinness. So it's the cool drink to drink. So
Yeah, it is. It is at the moment. It's super cool. I'll be honest with you. Like, you shouldn't feel bad for that. It is. I keep a note of all the drinks that founders recommend because I'm really interested to see, obviously. And Guinness is one of the most recommended drinks by other professionals in our industry. So you're in fine company.
okay.
I can't stand it. but
Really?
I don't like full strength Guinness either. I just don't like Guinness. So it's
Yeah.
not a drink for me. My
It's a,
husband
it's,
loves
it's a
it.
Marmite. It's a Marmite.
It's a
drink.
Marmite. It's a
Yeah.
Marmite. And I think it's really funny that, you're right. Like, all these young people are drinking what I was growing up was an old man drink.
Exactly.
When we were younger, it would be something that, your granddad drank, or, the old men down the pub. It's like, yeah, well, I'll have a pint of Guinness. Now you've got these young, trendy, beautiful people all trying to split the G. And it's just like, when did this happen? And it's unbelievable. Yeah, it's like the whole of the UK and Ireland are struggling with stocks. Guinness is rationing it to like just a couple of barrels
I know.
per venue.
Some of them are big Irish pubs as well, where they're like saying they do 10 barrels a week, and they've been offered like one or two.
Yeah.
They're like, it's our busiest period, and they're like, So
I mean, a good problem to have if you're Guinness.
So I'm sure BrewDog will come up with something to
To the
tackle that.
rescue.
Obviously, with their stout version. So
Yeah.
I'm sure they're loving it. So but it is good. Guinness Zero, they've done a great job, and I'm sure you're aware they've just built an extension to their brewery in Dublin, specifically for Guinness Zero. And I also read that they're actually building another separate factory in Ireland. I think there's 300 million investment just for Guinness Zero. So it just goes to show the changing times where, one of the most recognizable drink brands, and their focus is on the zero version because of the popularity of it. And remember when they launched it, the trade couldn't get stocks of it. And it's like that again now. It's so good, it's so popular, so it's great, and it's so I'm passionate about well-being. So the more people that drink Guinness Zero and other non-alcoholic drinks is a good thing. It's a good day. So
What do you think to that then? Because like also obviously a lot of people have reservations about big alcohol in air quotes, sort of jumping on the bandwagon and jumping into this space. But like you say, Guinness are spending millions and millions to promote their alcohol-free version. Now, of course, they then get promotion of their alcohol-full version off the back of that. But I can't help but feel that without big alcohol's involvement, that this category wouldn't have moved as far and as fast as it has.
Yeah, I agree. You think they buy up a lot of the upcoming startups, and they're realizing they're in trouble. Big alcohol's in trouble. Don't hold me to this fact, but I'm pretty sure AB InBev haven't made a profit in 5 years. So they had their financial results a few weeks ago. So that's worrying. They're the world's biggest brewer, you know. So they're in challenging times. People aren't drinking. They're turning away from alcohol in their droves. So big alcohol's worried. I went to an event earlier on this year, and all of them there, Molson Coors, Heineken, Diageo, Pernod Ricard, AB InBev, they're all there and running scared. People are not drinking alcohol. And this is going to be me controversial. It's all the research that's coming out showing how damaging alcohol is to health and well-being, that it's having that impact. People are realizing that, so they're sitting there as a organization built around alcohol, and it's like, oh my god, this is changing and changing quick. Non-alc is growing rapidly. You think in Spain alone, non-alc beers are 20% of the market in Spain. It's massive. Over here it's like 3 or 4%. I think in Germany it might be about 11%, Holland about 9%. So it's growing and growing quick. So it's that snowball effect. So they're realizing they've got to change quickly and come up with alternatives. But they're buying a lot. So I think Gillian Anderson's G Spot that got bought by Heineken. I think Dwayne the Rock Johnson, his Zoa Energy, that got bought by Molson Coors. I think Served got bought by Heineken. So they're all diversifying, and they have to quickly. They're big organisations, so they're looking at their portfolios and looking at other alcohol alternative drinks that are booming and growing, and categories that are growing a lot, and sort of snapping them up, because their core business is being challenged.
Yeah, I mean the numbers show that full strength alcohol sales have been stagnant now for quite some time, whereas low no is growing. And you're right. I mean, initially we're talking about a small starting point, so yes, the growth is going to be a lot steeper. But what's happening is that soft drinks and alcohol are stagnating, if not falling, and then alcohol free is growing. And I'm sure if I'm not a scientist or that type of researcher, but I'm sure if we were to look at the timelines and stuff, the WHO's announcement that the recommendation is that there is no safe level of alcohol to consume has had a very big impact on that, because even those who don't agree with it are still talking about it, and then that's putting it back into the mind frame. And then these big alcohol brands, like you say, are going, this is the next big thing, and this is the wave that we need to be riding if we want to be able to keep up with what it is that consumers are asking for.
I'm going to be controversial here, and I said I would, but it's changing. Alcohol, it's been really huge for humanity, and for building communities and bringing people together through thousands of years. It's been a really valuable tool, and it's old technology. It's toxic. It damages your health, and our own governments ignore this. They don't care about it, and that's how crooked the system is. And it's going to go the way of cigarettes. I'm sorry, but that's what's going to happen with alcohol, and it's going that way. And so I feel for people. I feel for those businesses. They're big organisations built on that, and similar thing happened to the cigarette businesses, and tobacco, and look how shunned they are now, and how different it was 30, 40 years ago. I think alcohol is going to go that way. It's a number one carcinogenic product. It causes cancer. It causes lots of other health issues for people. So, humans with the abundance of information that's available, which potentially wasn't available 30, 40 years ago when I was drinking alcohol. And you think, well, we didn't really know the impact it was having, or it wasn't widespread knowledge that the impact it was having on your health. So that's why we did it. And now this is aware to the younger generation and my generation and our generation and other people. They're like, wow, what are we putting this substance in our body for? So those numbers are just growing and growing. And what is it now? The UK adult population, is it between 20 and 25% classify themselves as teetotal? 1 in 4, 1 in 5? That's a big number. It's a big number, and growing year on year as well.
And it's growing globally. That's why I'm so excited about this industry. I'm so excited about what it's producing and where it's going, and for the good and for the bad. And how it's become a global phenomenon, because I'm speaking to people from all parts of the world, and there's places that we haven't even reached yet, and I liked before where you were talking about the percentages of the no-low beer market in different places, because the UK is seen as one of the most innovative places for low and no. But actually, we have some of the smallest sales percentages. The most alcohol-free beer in the world is produced in Germany, because every brew house in Germany produces alcohol-free beer. There's brew houses in every single town, and like you say, places like Spain and Italy, where it's just actually what they've been doing for a long time, but now we're shouting about it. Now we're learning about it, and now we're getting excited about it. And I think that as the UK and continues to grow its enthusiasm for it, and this continues to spread, and it becomes, it's becoming cooler. Like you say, your Kardashians and your young people, and all those kids, they're doing it because they want to, and they enjoy it, and they're proud to talk about it. Unlike when you and I were going to the pub, it wasn't cool to say, I'm not drinking. It wasn't, it'd be like, what's wrong with you?
That's the thing, is some of the biggest A-list celebs globally do not drink alcohol. And you see them, your J-Los, and I think Brad Pitt stopped drinking now as well. And these people are seen, and how good they look. I find it helps when you've got hundreds of millions in the bank, but they look amazing. And it's cool to be seen not to drink and have non-alcoholic versions. And so that is adding that fuel. And I think it's easy for self-discovery these days and find these things out. Because the thing the thing that really grinds me is our government. And in my naive years, I thought our government was there to protect us and look out for its population. They don't give a hoot. They don't give a shit about us. They seriously don't. So the bravest government in the Western world was Canada. And coming up this January, 2 years ago, this January, they were the first one who said the safe level of alcohol consumption per week for its population. This was their health service recommending to their population, was 0. And alcohol sales in Canada dived. I think it's from next year. Ireland is the first country that's going to force alcohol products to have a warning sticker or a label similar to cigarettes on alcohol products as well. That's coming out in Ireland. So the governments and health services know this, and it's crooked. It's tax. It's all about tax, and it's the tax they get from alcohol duty. I think research has shown a moderate drinker will reduce their lifespan by about 15 years. And there's a certain person I know, he spoke to the health minister about this. Oh, the problem is, though, people live longer, our pension liabilities go up. So while you're useful to the government into your 60s, 65, and you paid all your taxes, that's fine. Then, the sooner you die off, the better for the country. That's their view. So they don't give two hoots, really, the government. And it's so good the information is out there and people make that self-discovery themselves.
There's a lot that the government need to do. I mean, just in the most basic terms, to help people find and understand these drinks. I mean, Laura Willoughby at Club Soda is always campaigning about making sure that labelling is a lot clearer. You talk about the labelling in Ireland, I find that one of the biggest questions that I get from people is, what's the difference? You mentioned it briefly in the beginning, alcohol free, 0%, 0.5%. Nobody knows, and everyone's confused. And the danger is that we end up confusing people out of the market because they think, oh, it's got this percentage, but somebody told me that was more than a banana or less than a banana, and someone else said, and so people are just confused, and we need clarity. And
And she does a great job, Laura. She bangs this drum all the time, and I take my hat off to her. She's phenomenal at that. And it is confusing. I read through all the messages that we get through our social channels, and people are like, well, you got zero point 0.5 in, and you have to say, well, a glass of orange juice has over zero point 0.5. Some sourdough breads have 2% ABV because of the fermentation that goes on in them. At zero point 0.5, you can't drink enough. You can't consume enough glasses of orange juice that is going to make you drunk.
yeah.
It doesn't work like that, And it's that again. It's that education piece. Even water has got an ABV level in it. It's minute, it's tiny, but it's got a small level in there. So it is a confusing topic, and unfortunately, it's so led by the media and marketing. I sit now at Christmas and watching all the TVs, and it's glamorized. Alcohol is glamorized, and I can remember, because of my age, I can remember back when cigarettes were, and this time of year, the Hamlet cigars and all of
Yes,
this.
those adverts. Yes, yeah.
And now I'm still seeing alcohol adverts for fine. And this is, again, you're getting me started now. The government, it's like ultra processed foods. And it's shocking, in this day and age, we've advanced so far. And it's shocking in the last 40 years, cancer in young people has skyrocketed, absolutely skyrocketed. And they reckon that's down to the shit bloody crap that they're eating, ultra processed foods, and a lot of them where it was the lad and ladette culture, alcohol consumption, and that those impacts happen in your body, happen in your life. But on the positive side, it's good that so many more people are considering. I think the two biggest drivers in the non-alc is your health, and the other driver is active lifestyles. They're the two biggest levers for people who are sort of turning away from alcohol. But I feel for the industry, hospitality, a lot of them are doing well, and a lot of places now you can go to, and they have a compelling alternative to alcohol. But there's a lot that just sort of play lip service, and that's really disappointing. I've gone to football games, and all your friends are drinking beer at Arsenal, and you can have a Coke or a coffee. That's it. That's your alternative. So it was great to see Athletic Brewing have signed a deal with Arsenal.
Yeah.
And I haven't been for a while, so I don't know whether that's now available. So it's those hospitality, operators. The sooner that more of them wake up to the opportunity that people aren't drinking and give a compelling alternative. You look at the success of something like Pret a Manger.
Mm-hmm.
They've got healthy salad bowls, and look how far that's grown. Health and well-being is a big thing for a lot of people. They're huge. They're going global now because of there's the healthy options that they can offer people. Health and well-being sells. People look for healthy alternatives, and the more hospitality venues that actually see that opportunity, I think that they're the ones who are going to thrive, really.
Absolutely. Chris, you speak with such eloquence and such passion about the whole sector and all these things that clearly drive you and On Beer forward. Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure to sit with you and to get to know more about your journey. You're one of the nicest chaps in this space that I've had the pleasure to meet. And I'm really excited for what's next to come from On Beer. And I'll make sure that everyone knows where to go and find you in the show notes. There'll be links to everything Chris has talked about. Thank you, my dear.
It's been a love. I can't believe an hour's gone by. It's been wonderful. We chat all day. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it.